Hi, my name is Paula Swain. I'm a financial planner with the Financial Center for Women, and today I'm joined by Dirk Beamer, who's a business attorney. Dirk, why don't you take a second to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Paula. I'm Dirk Beamer, as Paula said, and I'm a member of Wright Beamer, a business firm here in Farmington Hills, Michigan. We work primarily with business owners and business management and help them identify and solve the problems that come across their desks every day.
So, Dirk, I want to ask you a question about, and I come into this a lot, that I'm talking with a business owner and he doesn't have any plans in place. And, if something were to happen to him for death or disability, um, and I think to them sometimes, what about your spouse? Like, how do you, if you were to die today, what's going to happen to the business and how is that going to affect your spouse? So, can you elaborate on that for me?
Sure. Unfortunately, it's a situation that we really see all too often, that somebody who's been very successful in building and growing a business has been less successful in facing the reality that he or she's not going to live forever. And there are certainly things they should be doing, both as far as personal estate planning, and that means will, trust, that kind of stuff, but also as far as the business with a buy-sell agreement or a shareholders agreement, just planning on both sides that will make it make things work out the way they really would expect or intend them to.
So let's go through an example. So let's say I own XYZ and I'm married and I pass away. What position did I now put my husband in? I have nothing saying it goes anywhere, no documents. What does that
Okay.
look like for my husband? And he doesn't know much about my business.
Yeah, it looks like a big mess. First of all, if you don't have any documents in place, that means you've died intestate. And that's a fancy word that says you don't have a will. And it means you have to go to probate court. And because
Okay.
everything now has to be done through a judge. So even if it's all ultimately doable, it's going to take a lot more time, energy, and expense.
Okay.
On the business side, um, if you haven't done any planning as to who's going to manage the business, or maybe it needs to be sold, if you have any partners, you have to have some understanding with them as to how your spouse gets treated. If you haven't done any of that planning, you just have created a lot of uncertainty and a lot of risk.
And since I
Um,
don't, so let's say that my spouse or I die, and so my spouse doesn't know much about my business, doesn't know how to run a business. So he doesn't want the business. So now we're in a situation that how do you make the business survive? How do you sell it? I mean, I know it's a mess, but
right.
I mean, what's going to happen there?
Well, hopefully you either have employees at your business or professional advisors like your CPA, your attorney, who will help your spouse quickly identify what his options are. Uh, I would say odds are good. His best option is to try to sell it and maybe engage a business broker or someone else in the industry to see if you can find a buyer. Um, but it's going to hemorrhage in all likelihood until somebody gets in there and very aggressively figures out what to do and how to salvage whatever value it has.
I would think so. I mean, like if you think about that, I'm gone. My employees are probably panicked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is the business going to survive? What's going to happen? They might start looking for new employment.
Sure.
The client, your customer, whoever that may be, um, might start to panic because they're wondering who's running the ship.
Right.
So it really something that maybe is worth $1 million is now worth, hardly anything by the time you go through that whole process.
That's right. That's why a lot of business owners, certainly they want to look at life insurance for a lot of reasons. And you think, well, life insurance is to take care of my family. That may be true, but in the business context, that life insurance policy may be exactly the lifeline of money that the business needs until it can get back up to speed. If you have a death
Mhm.
benefit leaving money to the business, now there's a little bit of cushion to deal with that transition while you find a new president or while you find a buyer. and it's not just going to bleed and evaporate in the meantime.
Oh, yeah, that makes great sense. So life insurance is a consideration. I also know we also talk to clients about not necessarily maybe even death, but disability. So if you
Yeah.
were
Yep.
unable to perform your duties, you might want to
Both
look
of
at
those
it.
should be considered, and really ought to look at insurance for both of those.
And then the document. I know there's a name for the document that you should have in place.
Well, there's a lot of documents you should have in place. Certainly one of them is you want to have some form of power of attorney, so that your spouse or somebody is authorized legally to act on your behalf if you're disabled. You probably ought to have some estate planning documents, including a trust that would name your spouse as your successor trustee so that he or she can immediately step in and act as if they were you as far as your financial transactions, your business transactions. Again, if you have a partner or more in your business, you really need to have that shareholders agreement or buy-sell agreement that spells out what the plan is if one of you dies or becomes disabled.
Okay. Anything else you have to say regarding that situation?
I always tell people, Paula, when you need those plans, it's too late.
Yes.
You can't deal with it then. It's too late. That's why you really
Okay.
have to take the time and plan ahead.
Yeah, that's like the client that comes to me and says, "Hey, I've got the onset of dementia, and can I get a long-term care policy?" Well,
Right.
it's too late at that point. So I want to say thanks, Dirk, for taking some time. If anybody has any questions or needs to have those documents put together, please give Dirk Beamer a call. Thank you, Dirk.
Thanks.